Welcome to Divorce Mortgage Strategies, brought to you by the Divorce Lending Association, where clarity meets strategy in the financial side of divorce. Whether you're a family law professional, a financial expert, or someone navigating the complexities of divorce yourself, this podcast is your go-to resource for trusted insight into how real property and mortgage financing intersect with divorce outcomes. We don't just talk about houses. We talk about strategic solutions that protect futures. Let's dive in. Today, we welcome host, certified divorce lending professional Theresa Jones and her guest, certified divorce financial analyst Erin Arnett.
Erin, thanks for joining us today. I'm Theresa Jones, and I am a guest host of the Divorce Lending Podcast, and I have Erin Arnett here with me. Erin is a phenomenal certified divorce financial analyst. Erin, how did you first get into, what made you decide to focus on the divorce aspect of?
I've been in financial planning, financial services for about 15 years and working on this side of the desk with clients and really having a lot more face-to-face interactions. Divorce is, I think, part of it's my age and the age of the clients that are coming to me. A lot we're starting to navigate the divorce process, and it was something I continuously heard over and over again. And when financial planning, I think it is really important for all aspects of life and all time frames of life. When you throw in divorce and you take one household and split it in two and all the assets in there, there are some nuances that need to be thought out a little bit differently than traditional financial planning. And so after just having a lot of clients come to me, I wanted to feel more educated and empowered to help them navigate all of those kind of financial complexities. And so I did go back and I got another certification, the Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, which is great. It helps me not only understand where the clients currently are, but also just kind of like the legal jargon and all the things that can come up through the divorce process, which as a financial planner, you don't always have exposure to. So I'm really thankful for the education, and it's really helped me have more strategic conversations with my clients.
That's important because you want to make sure that you get everything out there. So, in your strategic conversations, how do you help get them more comfortable and confident in their financial decisions and what their future is going to look like?
Yeah, most people, they just don't like, they feel stressed because of the numbers. Not only divorce is just, as many of you know, it's a traumatic experience. It could be the quote happiest, easiest divorce possible. And at the end of the day, there's still things that have to get figured out, whether it be custody issues or financial issues. Most people, I feel like, just are stressed out in general. And then when you throw the financial complexities of all of this, it just adds to the chaos. It What I typically find is that you may have an idea of the numbers, like a general consensus of the numbers, but how it actually applies to your short, mid, and long term plan is really where it's like you need someone to help you through that. And so I really try to help clients feel confident by really just slowing down the process. In divorce, I feel like things go really, really fast and then super slow. And then you have to have all these answers really fast and then super slow. And so what I like to do is come in and help attorneys or lenders or mediators really kind of help surround the client and help them feel confident by slowing down the process, by trying to use like as simple, realistic terms, showing projections of what their life could look like, what settlement options might be best. And then also one thing I really love to do, which is hard to do when you're in the divorce process, is start thinking about what you want your life to look like 1, 3, 5, 10 years from now. I think in the divorce process, when you're sitting in the trauma of it, I really see it's hard to dream and hard to get excited about your future because there's so many variables that come in, especially when it comes to the finances. And so I want to help them figure out, like, start dreaming about their future and really try to figure out, take the picture that they want their life to look like in a few years and help handhold them and back into those numbers.
That's huge because, I call it divorce purgatory with the hurry up and wait because and it's at least when I was going through it, it was so hard to imagine because I had a pretty good idea of what, my future was going to look like. And then after the divorce or during the divorce, it was like that was just completely blown up and I was left with a blank slate, which is terrifying. But at the same time, I was able to, now I look back and I'm like, and all this is because of things that I did after that. So
It's those choices that you make. It's like it's so easy to get wrapped up in the day to day, in the like just the drama of the divorce. And when you're able to like take a step back, you're right, you're starting over. You might be starting from scratch, a completely blank slate, a completely blank page. But I think it's important to really think about how you want that page to be filled. Who are you spending your time with? Where are you going? What, you may not know the specifics about where you're going to live or how much money you're going to be having, which is hard, but you can chase feelings. You can chase time with family, time with friends, and just really kind of fill up your space in a different way and then back into the numbers from there.
that's a good plan. And so, since you brought up numbers, big thing in divorce, is especially when there is a property, marital home. Do we keep the home? Do we buy out? Do we sell it? Backing into the numbers can get very difficult when you're trying to decide how to divide up the marital home, whether to keep it, sell it. How do you help clients not only with understanding, because of course, I would work with you to figure out the numbers for specifically the marital home, but having the cash to close if you are buying or refinancing versus the affordability post-divorce, because
Yeah,
those are, I'm sure, two very separate things.
they are. And then you add into like the emotional components of like your home, and whether it was a shorter marriage or a long marriage, or you raised your kids in the home, or you just moved in, and then you throw in school districts and all, just like, again, like it's an action, it's a time, there's a line in the sand of like marriage versus post divorce, right? And just all of the emotions that can come into owning the home and the memories in there. And so the easiest thing is to sell and split the assets and walk away and start over again. Broad generalization, a lot of times it's the cleanest way, but that's not always what aligns in your long-term best interest. Maybe you do have to refinance. Maybe you do have to assume loans, or really just figure out like maybe you just want to keep your kids in there for another 10 years and like just trying to figure out your options. I think that's where you come in, and it's easier to make decisions when you have facts and remove the emotional component. So you might want to stay in the house, and maybe one party is saying you're not able to because financially it's detrimental. But if that's what you want, and there's financially a way for us to do that that can make sense for you, then let's work towards that. But I think, again, coming in armed with your options, you can make educated decisions. It's really like beautiful part about this whole partnership. So when it comes to like cash to close and kind of like what you need day one. Let's say you decide to stay in the home, whether it be refi or assuming a loan, you still need to figure out like what do you need day one on move-in day? How much do you have an asset set aside for closing? And you want to keep it as simple as possible. So money, let's say you need 40,000 to close, right? 40,000, just broad number, but you only have set aside 50,000. Well, that's going to really stretch your emergency fund. And I think that actually would not be the most strategic decision for your finances. And of course, every situation is going to, look very different. But you want to make sure that you have enough cash on hand to cover your closing expenses and then some. So we want to make sure that you have enough money in your bank account for emergencies. Because if keeping the home leaves someone with only a few $1,000s left, that's really going to be a red flag. That's not proper financial planning. And so that's one thing that we really want to make sure we address. If it's there, if you have enough cash, depending on which resources you're getting it from, we can absolutely use that. But you want to make sure that you have enough cash on hand while still having an emergency fund. And then, when it comes to like the post decree affordability, all that really means is like, yeah, you might be able to make your mortgage payment, right? That is something that you have to make sure you can do. But it's also like the things that I see people miss out on or not think through as strategically as possible is all the other expenses that are going to come up or could come up if you decide to stay in the home. And so, yes, having a known component like what your monthly payment's going to be, yes, your property taxes, your home insurance, that's pretty much set in stone. You have a general idea of your utilities, your home maintenance, that type of stuff. But you really want to consider all factors when it comes to your budget and the real cost of living in your house going forward. And now, not only on top of that, but like you're also going from two incomes potentially to one income too. And so having a combined household where you've got multiple incomes coming in, and you might have alimony or maintenance come into play as well, but you just want to make sure that you're leaving cushion not only for your emergency fund but also your living expenses. I can go through those if you want, just kind of some things that I see people overlook if you want.
Yeah, what are some examples of things? That's exactly what I was thinking, that people often overlook.
Yeah. So I think things when you're evaluating your home and kind of just your options, and I'm sure you talk about this too, but like let's say things that you want to ask yourself: when was your HVAC last replaced or set aside for maintenance? When was your roof replaced? What about your appliances? So those are all, roof could cost 15,000 plus dollars. And like you're going to have to come out of pocket, which is going to hit your emergency fund pretty hard. Now, some insurance companies might provide some there's all different situations, but I think it's more proper financial planning if you have at least thought through how you would cover some of those expenses. Because if you don't plan for it, it's going to be tough. If you do plan for it, it's just an inconvenience. If you don't plan for it, it can be a crisis. And we want to avoid those crisis situations as much as possible. So if there's ways for you to get on an ongoing maintenance plan with an HVAC company that can come out and service your air conditioning, your furnace a couple times a year, make sure your filters are getting replaced, just kind of those things. But you want to make sure that you're taking care of maintenance, whether you are bringing someone in and actually doing the maintenance or you're setting aside money for maintenance. And so if you think about like you're going to need to replace your HVAC, I have no idea how much they cost. I'll just throw 15,000 because financial planning do not do HVAC, but I know some people who can.
Yeah.
So if you're going to spend call it 15,000 on a new air conditioning unit, it might make sense where your budget accounts for like a couple extra $200 to $300 a month before it becomes a crisis. So you literally have it in your budget, like home maintenance, $300 goes over here, it goes into a separate savings account that is out of sight, out of mind. It's literally just there for emergencies. So having money go into that kind of bucket for those like potential big expenses down the line, that will just kind of provide a little bit more peace of mind.
And so sooner or later, that HVAC is going to go out.
It's just a matter of time. And it will always happen when like around Christmas time when your furnace breaks, because that's when you're most financially stretched and it's freezing out. And it's just the most inconvenient time. And the last thing I want for people to do is to take on a significant amount of debt or throw that on a credit card or throw it on a couple of credit cards because that's the only way that they can cover it. I'd much rather them have a plan for those types of expenses if they decide to stay in a home, or if they decide to, maybe they do have a clean down the middle, split the equity, move on, go buy a new home, get a new mortgage in your name, but still thinking about those ongoing maintenance expenses that you just want to have cushion in your budget for. But again, the other part of all of this is underestimating their post-divorce monthly expenses. And that's not just utilities. Like you're going to have your known components, like let's say on average, we're spending $300 a month on electric, your cable, your cell phone, all those normal fixed non-discretionary expenses that are going to happen every month, right? Those are built in your monthly cash flow or your budget. I see people underestimate those expenses a lot. Very rarely do I see them overestimate. What I don't love to see when you're looking at budgets and just kind of cash flow for when we're talking about divorce. So what I like to see is your current living expenses and then ideas about your future living expenses. And there's a lot of variables at play. And I know there's a lot of unknowns to all of this, but when you're going through the divorce process, so before you finalize, before you sign, things that I want to make sure people are also considering is like the property and casualty insurance. A lot of families, when you're in a combined household, you are able to receive discounts because you're bundling home and auto, and it's you and your spouse. And so you've got your home, you've got your autos in there, maybe you've got a boat, maybe you've got kids who drive, but like you're all kind of on a family type of plan. And usually, not all the time, you receive a discount for that and you have a bundled discount. And more than likely, you're going to be losing that when you, after the divorce is finalized. So I would like you to get quotes before. So you have an idea and, they're quotes, but we want to make sure you have a realistic number built into your budget of what that number could look like post-divorce. And
Yeah,
then
I've
also,
seen health
go ahead.
insurance be the similar where,
Yeah.
if it's been covered by the spouse, then after it's over and that has to be included in there
Uh-huh.
too. 'Cause
Totally agree. If you have health insurance with your spouse, and you don't have health insurance options at your employer, your options are really going on Cobra, which can be, not all the times, but more times than not, I see that being incredibly expensive, which is a huge line item out of your budget. Or you have to self-insure, which also can be really expensive. And so not only is that the cost of premiums that you have to account for, but also your deductibles might change and your out-of-pocket expenses with a new health insurance plan can increase too. So I also encourage clients to start getting your health insurance in order. And I know we're just adding a ton to the plate, but for you to go back to your attorney and have realistic numbers, it just helps arm you better to have negotiations and settlement. And there might be some things that you have to give up, but at least you have the facts and have at least general ideas of what your numbers could look like. I have a couple other things that I see people miss. But if we're talking about budgets and kind of like, again, if you're thinking about how it affects the mortgage, or just kind of your post-divorce financial budget. Yeah.
there,
I mean, but if there's kids involved, there's so many things that I see people miss out on. And I know that doesn't apply to everyone, but I think it is important to really start considering it as quickly as possible. Because not only do you obviously you've got custody things that you need to work out and who spends time with one partner during the holidays and the other one, like who's handling summer and just kind of like all the things like that, which I'm not an expert in. I don't want to be an expert in it, but there's a lot of unforeseen and just kind of expenses that are typically when you're in one household, it just is covered, right? But when you're going out on your own, you're splitting the household up, it can really feel like a death by a thousand paper cuts. The expenses that were a lot easier to absorb with those two incomes or at least a combined family unit, it can be a lot harder unless you think about it and you have intention and strategy and communication with your soon-to-be ex-partner about all of this post-divorce. And so when you think about the post-divorce child family expenses that a lot of people miss, they're not emergencies, like they're not ER visits. Those we need to cover again with extra and have clear communication on that. At the end of the day, you want to make sure everyone's covered and everyone is receiving treatment, period.
right.
They're not emergencies, but they can add up fast. And so I'm just like thinking about my own kids. I've got two kids in elementary school, those little things that come home all the time that just like they're small things, but they add up. So things that you're not necessarily thinking about, but I think it is important to have miscellaneous expenses for school and classroom costs, teacher appreciation gifts, classroom donations, or supply drives. Like every once in a while, my kids need Kleenex boxes and they have to fill this up, or extra snacks at school, field trips, school pictures, books, gosh, like book fairs, spirit wear, yearbooks, like all of those random things at school. It might be
And
$20
that's if they're
here.
not doing after school or
Oh, yeah,
extracurricular
if you,
sports.
and then you
Yeah,
throw in, absolutely, you throw in like activities, sports, hobbies. I'm finding that they increase, they don't decrease after divorce. So you got your sports leagues, registration fees, uniforms, equipment, lessons, camps, all of that stuff too. On top of that, like travel stuff or art classes or music and dance, and it's just all those things. And and then you throw in like, okay, during the summer, who's watching my kids? And who's responsible for those camps if you're going to camps? And
yeah.
who's paying for it? Like which parent is paying for it? And so just things that you want to really think through. It doesn't all have to be hammered out, but I think it's worth talking about. It depends on the couple and their communication, but I think it's important. And then also you think about like the birthday party gifts and the class party contributions or sleepovers or holiday exchanges or graduation gifts. And then that doesn't even include like cell phones or tablets or subscriptions, just like the clothing and personal items for your kids, whether it be, maybe your children need a couple of different wardrobes now, like one for moms, one for dads. Maybe they leave a pair of shoes at mom's, or just kind of all those things, haircuts that you don't always think about because you just do it as a parent, but it adds up. And I think it's important to have those conversations first with your co-parent, but also like making sure that you have room in your budget to address those things too. I
Yeah.
just think that having a plan, it doesn't mean that like you're planning for the worst case scenario. You just really want to make sure that you're prepared and how it's going to affect your
And those
overall plan.
incidentals, they can
Yeah,
add up
it
so
adds
quickly.
up. It does. I mean, you think about like just the class parties and just all the like little $5 here, $10 there. It does. It just adds up quickly.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts to leave with everybody today?
Yes, thank you. I think that I just wish people would dream a little bit more. It's easy to get lost in the day-to-day components of all the divorce. Quite frankly, it can feel dramatic. But I think the more intentional you are with thinking about 1, 3, 5, 10 years from now, not only your own life, but also if there's children involved, like what ages will your kids be in those time frames? And kind of think through what you want your life to look like. It's a lot easier to plan for your future before the ink dries on your settlement. And just making sure that like we're not planning for everything. Like it doesn't have to all be built in every line item here, but you do want, it's not going to be perfect, but you want to have some strategies. You want to have clear numbers before you go into settlement. You really want to think through like making sure that a good decision today would also be a good decision for your life, like 1 and 3 years from now. I think that it's just really important to have facts and strategy and making sure that you've got a good team surrounding you.
Well, I appreciate you sharing all of this with us today. If anybody wanted to go in and, ask you any questions, is there a good way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I think
Or,
the best, yeah,
yeah.
just shoot me an email or following me on Instagram is usually where there's an easy way to get on there and set up a phone call with me. My Instagram handle is KB Elliott Erin, so KBELLIOTTERIN on Instagram, and I'd love to connect.
Thank you again, Erin. I really enjoyed this, and I hope everybody else got as much out of it as I did.
Thanks, Theresa.
Thanks for joining us on Divorce Mortgage Strategies, powered by the Divorce Lending Association. If today's conversation brought you clarity, insight, or inspiration, we encourage you to subscribe and share this episode with others in your circle. For more resources, or to connect with a certified divorce lending professional in your area, visit divorcelendingassociation.com. And be sure to download the free Divorce Strategy Hub mobile app for tools, education, and support designed to guide you through the financial side of divorce. Until next time, remember, in divorce, the mortgage isn't the problem, it's the plan.